Welcome into the Michigan Football Report live here from the Chat Sports Schembechler Hall studios. I am James Yoder, the face of Michigan football media, bringing you the Michigan football fan mailbag put on our live show yesterday. Hey, anybody have any questions about Michigan football? Reply below. We got a lot of great comments and questions from you, the Michigan Football Report audience, or just people who happen to come across my tweets on Twitter. So let's break right into them. The Michigan football mailbag. We've got one from Lauren Emerson on the Michigan offensive coordinator search. I put out a tweet yesterday with 5 candidates for Michigan's next offensive coordinator. Of course, if they decide to part ways with Pep Hamilton or demote him to a quarterback's coach, a quarterback's whisperer, whatever it is. And basically, Lauren has said she doubts it's going to be Greg Roman. We're going to put up on the screen, as you see here, the 5 candidates I have identified to be Michigan's offensive coordinator if Jim Harbaugh decides to make a real offensive coordinator hire. Lauren says, doubt it's going to be Roman. He's either going to be promoted with the Ravens or go to Vic Fangio's next landing spot, the former offensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh at previous spots. Would Greg Roman go with him if Fangio gets a head coaching job in the NFL, which he is rumored to be interviewing for? So that's her thoughts on it. I don't necessarily think Fangio is going to get a job. There's a lot of rumors as a head coach, a lot of rumors that he does not interview well, that maybe he's too old. We don't support ageism here at Chat Sports, but apparently maybe the NFL does based on the rumors. So she says doubt it's Roman. He got demoted from his play caller with the Ravens. He's their tight ends coach this season, but has had a lot of success with Jim Harbaugh in the past. Was with him at Stanford, then offensive coordinator with him at the 49ers, taking the 49ers with a running quarterback to the Super Bowl in the 2012 season. Let's take a look at this list. This is my updated list, hot board for offensive coordinator. I think Pep Hamilton is not going to be with Michigan next year, so they're going to have to make a hire. Jedd Fisch, formerly at Michigan, now an assistant, kind of working on the play calling with the Rams. You've got Greg Roman, former offensive coordinator of the 49ers, co-offensive coordinator at Stanford. He is now tight ends coach at the Ravens. Brian Wright, who Michigan pursued heavily last year, but rumors are Jim Harbaugh wouldn't give him full control or wouldn't make concessions on play calling at University of Toledo. Cale Gundy, the co-OC, maybe he wants to break out from Lincoln Riley's shadow and his brother's shadow, I guess, over at Oklahoma State to be the primary play caller at Michigan. And Major Applewhite, rumored to be a candidate for the Michigan State job, but he runs a very high-tempo, pass-happy system, but fairly balanced. Did a nice job there, although he did get fired on the offensive side, did a nice job there. He is out after 2 years. Major Applewhite, offensive coordinator with Nick Saban, his first year at Alabama. So that is my top 5 list. Want to know who you guys think, of course. Let me know if you've got anybody new that pops up on your radar for the Michigan offensive coordinator job. All right, coming in next, Michigan football question in the mailbag. Nick Holtz, probably Lou's grandson, so great job that you resisted to be a Notre Dame fan. Came over to the good side of Michigan. Also like about Holtz's Twitter account, his opinions expressed on Twitter do not reflect those opinions of his employer. So good thing you had that disclaimer. You might think that this question is about your employer, probably someone who has already had a relationship. This is in regards to the next offensive coordinator. Harbaugh's a stubborn guy to work with, basically saying, hey, come be my OC at Michigan, but you're not going to be able to call the plays. That does not sound enticing to a high-level offensive coordinator. So definitely like where we're going here with this one, Nick. So good question from you. I agree with you. If Jim Harbaugh is not going to give up the play-calling duties and have the new offensive coordinator have the general autonomy to put in the game plan, I think you're going to continue to get Harbaugh retreads like Greg Roman, like Pep Hamilton is right now, like Tim Drevno was before him. So certainly if Michigan wants to make a splash, like they did with Don Brown supposedly, although his defense has come under scrutiny the last 2 games, you've got to give that person full control of the offense. Let them run their offense, which leads me to this question. Does Michigan need a new offensive coordinator? Technically, they don't even have one right now, right? They've got a group of coordinators with Jedd Fisch, with formerly Jim McElwain, with Pep Hamilton, Jim McElwain, Jim Harbaugh. Who's calling the plays here? Ed Warner, who knows? Does Michigan need a new offensive coordinator? Want to know from you guys watching live on Facebook, YouTube, and my Twitter account. Type Y for yes, type N for no. If you're typing N for no, you better give a dang good reason, because I think you're kind of crazy. Type Y for yes, does Michigan need an offensive coordinator? Type N for no. Next question here on our Michigan football mailbag coming in from Shane Majewski says, honestly, if Harbaugh doesn't get an OC, and playing caller these days, that Michigan is going to continue to struggle. Collaborative game plan is okay, yada, yada, but I agree with him here. One person needs to call the shots at Michigan. When I typed back to Shane in this, might have been through DM, but I said to him, I like that, you're thinking there, Shane. If everyone's responsible, which what it seems like for Michigan right now, Pep Hamilton's in charge of the passing game, Ed Warner's in charge of the running game, Jim Harbaugh is in charge of run or pass or go for it, and Jim McElwain was in charge of this and that. If everyone's responsible, then no one's responsible. And I think this collaborative play calling may have worked for Jim Harbaugh at Stanford when they were 4-7. It's not going to beat Ohio State. It's certainly not going to get in the college football playoff and beat Alabama and Clemson. Let's take a look at the Michigan football offense against Florida. Why they need an offensive coordinator, certainly. 15 points, folks. That is disastrous no matter what game you're in, let alone a big-time bowl game. 326 total yards, 249 through the air, which seems like it's an okay game, but a lot of those were desperation throws late in the game when they were down. 77 yards rushing, and I believe Shea Patterson had 20 of those on the second play of the game. So 326 yards, only 77 yards rushing against Florida in the Peach Bowl. All right, let's get to 5,000 subscribers on the new Michigan Football Report YouTube channel. We got the cool URL. YouTube hooked us up, youtube.com/MichiganTV. Just at around 1,500 subscribers. Got 0 to 1,000 real quick. Kind of slowing down over the holiday season. Scroll down if you're watching on YouTube right now. Hit subscribe if you're watching on Facebook or Twitter. You see the URL right there. youtube.com/MichiganTV. Really easy to remember. Type it in your browser. It'll drop you right on the page. Hit subscribe, and you will know every time we have new Michigan football content. We've got another Michigan football mailbag question from Steven, goes by Mr. Darrell 1980. Says, if Michigan hires an OC and that person is named the actual OC, not the passing game coordinator, not the offensive leader, will this hurt? Sorry, it is not named that person. I think he meant actual OC, not OC. But nevertheless, I believe what he's trying to say here is if Michigan brings someone in, they need to call them the offensive coordinator. He's got to have his own system in here. And what Jim Harbaugh has really done over the past few years is name passing game coordinators, running game coordinators, wide receiver game coordinators, whatever the hell these different things mean. They need an offensive coordinator, and they need position coaches. Everyone can't have an inflated job title just because Jim Harbaugh wants to bring him on board. You've got to have responsibilities, and it seems that everyone's responsible for everything in this offensive staff. It's not the same in the defense, They've got a cornerbacks coach. They've got a safeties coach. They've got a linebackers, a defensive line coach. On offense, it seems to be a group of guys all throwing stuff against the wall, and that's why some of the so-called insiders out there are saying, hey, look, Michigan's got all these game plans to get Chris Evans involved and Zach Gentry involved, but when the rubber hits the road and they get into a 2nd and 9 situation, they completely abandon the game plan that these guys put together. So Michigan needs to have an offensive coordinator who makes the game plan, who instructs it to the position coaches, and he is responsible for making those decisions on every single play. So thanks for the question there, Steven. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the follow on Twitter as well. Take a look here at Shea Patterson's stats in the 2018 season. And frankly, 13 games, folks, 2,600 yards and 22 touchdowns. That does not inspire confidence where I come from for what this Michigan offensive staff did this season. And why is that? Well, he had pretty much the same exact stats last year in only 6.5 games at Ole Miss. So I think that Michigan needs to have a much more offensive, quarterback-friendly, passing-friendly offensive game plan going forward. It seems we've got now is 2 or 3 tight ends, smash mouth football, and even when you throw it, it looks like it's brain surgery. Just simple 10-yard out to pick up first down. Nico Collins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, they're going up having to making circus catches because Michigan does not have route trees that gets people open. So see the question on the board. Want to know from you guys. Go ahead and answer below in comments here on Twitter, here on Facebook Live, and on the new Michigan Football Report YouTube channel. Next question coming in here from Rick Moody. A lot of talk about a new OC and possibly offensive scheme. Is that just hope of the fans, or do you think Harbaugh will not be stubborn and make some of these changes? Let's kind of talk about this a little bit. People have come at me on Twitter in the past few days, really since the Ohio State game, when you can't be critical of Harbaugh. You're not a fan. You're not all this stuff. you can be critical and be a fan. I actually would say if you're not critical after these last 2 games, I don't really think you are a fan. It means you really don't care that much. If Jim Harbaugh takes the philosophy we've seen over the last 4 years on offense and kind of on defense the last couple years, they've had good stats, but when you face a team that had similar talent, you get crushed. If that wins a national title, if that wins the next 3 against Ohio State, wins the next couple against Notre Dame, I will come on here and publicly apologize to Jim Harbaugh. But the offensive scheme they have right now is not winning big-time games. Harbaugh was 1-9, 1-10 against top 10 teams, losing your final 2 games 3 straight years. It's not getting it done. So if he doesn't, we're going to be celebrating October 3rd every single year, 10-3, as Jim Harbaugh Day. Your best season is going to be a 3-loss season. Ohio State and the bowl game will be a loss every year. And with that being said, let's take a look at the comparison this year. In quarterbacks, 2 guys who came out in the same recruiting class in 2016 were at the same camps together, and everybody who evaluates talent said Shea Patterson, the more talented guy coming out of high school. But Dwayne Haskins sits in that Ohio State system for a couple years, gets the start this year, and is in a progressive offensive passing scheme, a progressive offense just in general, and absolutely dwarfs the numbers that Shea Patterson puts up. Look at those stats there. 370 for 530 for Dwayne Haskins, almost 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. 50 touchdowns, folks. That is more than double. That is double what the Michigan all-time record is for a single season, and it is more than double what Shea Patterson did the entire season himself. Both guys had about 7-8 interceptions there, and then Dwayne Haskins, you see, at 174 quarterback rating to Shea's 149, basically 150, 149.8. So Shea Patterson, Dwayne Haskins, not a good look if you are hoping that Michigan is going to be a national title contender going forward. You got to do it these days with a offense that can help you compete. So thanks a lot for the question there. Can Michigan get an offensive coordinator that can lead them into the future? And can Harbaugh not be so stubborn? And you can be hooked up for watching this show if you like. You won't be, if you're not so stubborn, you want to put some money on some college football, some NFL playoffs, some NBA, college basketball, head over to BetDSI, chatsports.com/bet. We'll send you right there. And we have hooked you up with the promo code GOBLUE, no spaces, just promo code GOBLUE, 120% deposit bonus. You put in 50, you get 60. You put in 100, you get an extra 120 plus. You also, if you act now, get a Michigan football jersey, maize or blue, number 4, number 1, for those 2, in reverse there, or the Michigan football Block M Jordan brand baseball style shirt that is just absolutely awesome. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code GOBLUE. You sign up and deposit with them. You get your 120% deposit bonus, and then you DM me at James T. Yoder on Twitter. Tell me they've signed up and deposited. I will get some info from you, and we will send you one of these awesome Michigan football giveaways, the jersey or the Block M Jordan brand maize and blue baseball tee. All right, Brendan Davis asks, current freshmen to have the biggest impact in 2019. This is a pretty good recruiting class, much better than the true freshmen that were on campus this year, almost none of which made any sort of impact on the field this year. So next year, with a lot of people moving on to the pros, with some big-time gaps in the depth at certain positions, Michigan's going to have to rely on true freshmen like they did in Jim Harbaugh's first couple of years, and they didn't really have to rely on it so much this year. So let's take a look at my 5 impact freshmen for the 2019 season, and it all starts with Dax Hill and Zach Charbonnet. And by the way, some people put out fake news there. It's Charbonnet. I've double, triple confirmed Charbonnet, like a fine French wine. It is pronounced a soft T at the end there, E-T. So Dax Hill, I believe, by game 1, he'll be on the field as maybe your 5th defensive back. And with Josh Metellus returning, you've got a veteran back there with a spot opening up from Tyree Kinnell moving on. So Dax Hill will compete with Brad Hawkins for the other starting safety job. Maybe potentially if David Long goes pro, he could potentially get the opportunity to get some nickel cornerback action. But I think Dax Hill will be on the field for a lot of times. Zach Charbonnet, I think he will be Michigan's 2nd or 3rd running back from day 1. And if he is not starting by game 4 or 5, something is wrong, because I don't think the guys Michigan has on campus, from what I've seen, have the talent of Zach Charbonnet. Like we saw out of Christian Turner, Certainly, Chris Evans has been there for 3 years, but I'm going to have to see those guys do it on the field next year before I'm going to give them the nod long term. Mazi Smith has been turning some heads down there at All-American Bowl practices. Many people think he's going to be in the two deep from day one. David Ojabo is a really interesting case study. He's only been playing football for about 2 years. Top 250, top 300 style recruit, 4-star. People say he's an athletic freak, and once he learns the game of college football, he will be an impact player. So I think he will have the opportunity to get some plays, maybe just like Josh Uche did this year in his third year on campus. Maybe that'll be Ojabo's role next year, is just ball snapped. David, go run the quarterback as fast and as hard as you can. So those are my 5 impact freshmen for the 2019 season. Thanks so much for the question. All right, next question coming in here. We've got Aaron asking, do you think any of our wide receivers or quarterbacks besides Peters transfer? Very good question. Quarterbacks I see, now obviously I think everybody thinks that Brandon Peters is going to transfer. Some said Purdue might be the destination for him. But let's take a look at that quarterback room in the 2019 season for Michigan with Shea Patterson returning to the Wolverines. You've got Shea, and this is in no particular order of depth, folks. This is just in order of their class, where they're standing as far as eligibility. Shea Patterson, true senior, 4th-year guy. Brandon Peters, 4th-year junior. Dylan McCaffrey will be in his 3rd season as a redshirt sophomore. Joe Milton, and then incoming freshman Cade McNamara will be the 5 scholarship quarterbacks for the Wolverines in 2019. So Brandon Peters, I don't think he'll be on that list when we see this come out in August of 2019. Obviously, you might find out before the season starts. But I think quarterbacks, Milton and Dylan McCaffrey, certainly have something to think about. Now, one of those guys will probably be the starter for Michigan in 2020 after Shea leaves. And look at the competition, the ability to compete with Shea for that role, although I do think Shea Patterson certainly has the nod. So the guy who loses that competition in 2020, is he kind of throwing away his entire college football career? It's tough to say. You see a ton of quarterbacks transferring these days. Notre Dame's got to transfer. Texas has got to transfer. Alabama probably will lose Jalen Hurts this year. So it's not abnormal. I don't think Michigan football fans need to freak out if any of the quarterbacks transfer. Shea's back. As long as McCaffrey, Peters, and then obviously Cade McNamara stay on the roster going forward, I think they'll be just fine. 5 is a lot of scholarship quarterbacks to have on one roster. Let's take a look at the wide receiver depth chart, though. This is where it might get interesting. You've got a 3-pack of wide receivers. Nico Collins, Tariq Black coming back being healthy, hopefully with the right attitude. He can be a force, which I believe puts Donovan Peoples-Jones has shown flashes on the outside, but I believe that his best role would be in a more slot position with Black and Collins being more larger players, big body, being able to go downfield a little bit better. Ronnie Bell, Michael Barrett, making the switch back from defense back to offense. Then Oliver Martin. Martin has been rumored to transfer. Tariq Black has been rumored to transfer. Jim Harbaugh in his podcast last week before Bowl Week said, we've got 5 scholarship returning players next year at the wide receiver position. Well, I saw 6 names there. So I don't know what that means. All 6 of those guys are scholarship players. That's not including any of the walk-ons that got some time this year, like Chanel and McCurry. So I don't know what to make of the 5 number. Maybe Jim Harbaugh misspoke, but I see 6 scholarship wide receivers there. So could one guy be leaving? Oliver Martin rumored. Tariq Black, you never know. It wouldn't make sense for him, but he didn't get the kind of snaps he thought he was when he returned from injury. Certainly wasn't a major factor in the bowl game a couple of days ago. So do I think any will transfer? Maybe. 50-50 at this point. I'm not going to make any predictions, but I wouldn't be surprised if at least one more QB and a wide receiver or 2 were not with the Michigan football program next season. Can we get us to 5,000 subscribers on YouTube? If you're watching and you're not subscribed below, watching on YouTube, subscribe, just scroll down, hit the subscribe button. You will know every time the Michigan Football Report has new videos. We are the #1 video company in the world for Michigan football, and I am hosting multiple shows every single week. Let's get to 5,000. If you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on Facebook, screenshot right now. If you want to watch this, continue to watch the show, go to that URL afterwards, youtube.com/MichiganTV. The URL matches the show. It is the Michigan TV network of the internet. Go ahead and subscribe. Get us to 5,000. I got a big time surprise for you when we do. Ben Purcell is up next. Ben, thanks for following. Thanks for the question. Certainly appreciate it. Are younger players getting robbed of playing time because the other, the Harbaugh is basically favoring experienced players? That's basically the gist of the question here from Ben, and I think it's a pretty good one from all the things I'm seeing out there on Twitter, from all the things that people are talking about related to, let's talk about offensive line, let's talk about some of the running backs, Christian Turner and some others. Let's even think about positions like defensive line, right? So the question is a good one. I don't have a great answer for it. And then even quarterback, right? Dylan McCaffrey, should he have been starting this year? Some people want to ask. Joe Milton, is he getting penalized because he's a true freshman where Shea Patterson didn't perform in the Ohio State game and the bowl game? So it's a good question. I'd like to say no, but why were certain linebackers on the field in 2017 that they really didn't deserve just because they were seniors? Why were certain offensive linemen on the field this year, last year, 2016, where it's clear they weren't cutting it? I think there's some validity here, Ben. I certainly don't think you're crazy to think that. I think that the only time will tell. As we get into next season, if Zach Charbonnet comes in and starts breaking off 15-yard rushes as he's not starting, then we've got a problem. If Dax Hill is running all the field, making plays, and he's not getting the starting role, then we have a problem. And I do think if a guy like Jalen Mayfield doesn't get into the starting lineup over an Andrew Stuber, who is one of the top 5 worst-rated linemen by Pro Football Focus in the bowl season, then I think we've got a problem. So we'll know in August, early September next year, whether or not Harbaugh is prioritizing tenure over talent at the Michigan football program. All right, here's a question for you guys. See a lot of people on Twitter, Michigan football fans, certainly not nearly as big of an audience on Twitter just in general with society as there are on YouTube, obviously on Facebook. And then you've got your websites. The blog boys are doing their thing with the 24/7 and Rivals, Yahoo, and all the different blogs. But I want to know from you guys, where do you get your Michigan football news? If you're watching this program, could be YouTube, could be Twitter, could be Facebook, or the Michigan Football Report podcast. So which do you guys go to? Answer below in comments. Is it YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or websites? We want to know what platform you prefer to get your Michigan football news, whether it's from us or from someone else. So answer below, and I will take that into consideration as we plan out more Michigan Football Report programming in the future. Next question up from Brian Powers. What is Quinn Nordin's status? And let me just address this one. People on the internet who publish things, sometimes they must think you, the viewing audience, you, the Michigan football fan, are stupid because there's this guy, Greg with 3 G's, Henson or something like that. Maybe it's a different name. I can't remember the guy. He's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, but every 2 months or so, he decides to put out an article where he just makes wild, crazy accusations about everyone in Michigan football. One of them comes right, and then he pats himself on the back for it. So what's Quinn Nordin's stats? Henson will tell you he was kicked off the team during bowl practice, but Greg Henson, I didn't know if you saw at the game, this man that we're going to show here, Quinn Nordin, was in full uniform. Now, didn't get the start. He's been passed up. That's fine. But he didn't get kicked off the team during bowl practice. He went 11-16 on the year, obviously a down year from his big-time 2017. Still kicked almost 98% from extra points, and knocked in a 50-yarder. So if you see this guy, Greg Henson, patting himself on the back when Nordin transfers, which he probably will, maybe he'll stick around for one more year and do a 5th year somewhere else because he's only completed 3 years at Michigan. So who knows if he's graduated or is on pace to graduate this spring or this summer. If he eventually transfers, do not let Greg Henson pat himself on the back because he said last week that Nordin was kicked off the team, yet, we saw him in uniform. So, Greg, quit the fake news, okay? Just quit it. No one cares about you. You were a weird guy in 2019 who still has a goatee, so no one can take you seriously. Quinn Nordin has not been kicked off the team. Don't listen to Greg Henson or whatever his name is out there on his gregwhenson.net website. All right. Michigan Man Fan 1 wants to know who will take over the defensive play calling if Don Brown leaves for Temple. So Manny Diaz got the job. Then a couple days later at Temple, quit from the job, went to the Miami Hurricanes, kind of one of the weirdest situations we have had. His boss, Mark Richt, apparently didn't tell him that he was probably going to retire after their bowl loss to Wisconsin. So the Temple job is back open. Will Don Brown get another interview? Will he pursue it? Well, maybe. I have no insight to that as of now. Don't know what Don Brown's thinking. Was told that maybe he didn't pursue the job or interview as hard as he should have because they wanted to name what some of his staff members on the offensive side would look like. But if Don Brown didn't move on, not saying he is, so relax there, angry Twitter user. I don't have any insight to whether Don Brown's leaving or taking another job. But if he did, who could Michigan name their next defensive coordinator? Well, if he leaves, I've got 3 guys on the current staff that make some sense to me. So first up, Chris Partridge. He is the safeties and he is the special teams coordinator at Michigan. He's been with the program for 4 years. He's 3rd as a coach. Rashawn Gary's old high school coach. A young guy. I don't even think he's hit his 40th birthday yet, but is a known big-time recruiter. Alabama recruited him very hard last year to be a co-defensive coordinator. Michigan, sweetened the deal, wet the beak a little bit there for Chris Partridge, gave him that special teams coordinator title, so he got the word coordinator in his job title. I think he'd be number 1 because of his recruiting prowess and because of just what he's proven as a coach the last 3 years. Mike Zordich has done a hell of a job at Michigan. Younger guy himself. Never really had any coordinator experience at the big-time college football level, but he has coached Michigan's cornerbacks to be some of the best in America. 2016, Jordan Lewis. 2017, 2018, David Long, Lavert Hill. Michigan has had top-level cornerbacks his entire tenure with Michigan, and he's been a candidate to move on to other jobs. So maybe it'll be Mike Zordich. I'm not sure how the internal politics are working there at Michigan. But then Greg Madison. Some people is going to say he's way too old. He's somewhere in his late 60s. I'll have to look up his exact age. But Greg Madison has defensive coordinator responsibilities at Michigan in 2 tenures in the early 90s, and then 2011 to 2014, stuck around when Jim Harbaugh came back. He's also got defensive coordinator responsibilities in the pros. He was the D coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. So could be Madison, maybe be Madison for just 1 year as Harbaugh kind of vets what he wants to do with the defense going forward. And as of now, no outside candidates that I have in front of me like we do for the offensive coordinator role. But if it seems imminent that Don Brown would take another job, I will certainly do my diligence, look out there, see who is a potential candidate for the play calling duties for the defensive coordinator job should Don Brown leave, which we don't know at this time if he will or if he's even considering moving on. Have you been hooked up with BetDSI yet? Because we've extended the holiday promo code BetDSI Chat Sports, hooking you up with the promo code GoBlue, chatsports.com/bet, to bet on college football, NFL, Major League Baseball when it comes around, NBA, 120% deposit bonus, put in 50, you get a free 60, plus you get a Michigan football jersey, the number 4 blue jersey, a little Harbaugh, Nico Collins, or the maize number 1. If you don't want a jersey, get that Michigan football Block M maize and blue Jordan baseball style tee, chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code GoBlue at BetDSI. Sign up and deposit, and then you DM me on Twitter at James T. Yoder. Said, yo, got hooked up with BetDSI. What do I need to do to get my jersey or shirt? We'll ask you for a couple of pieces of information, and that bad boy will be on its way from us here at Chat Sports to you, the esteemed viewer of the Michigan Football Report. All right, another question from Michigan Man fan. He has a little 3-pack of questions, but I like these 2 in particular. The D coordinator, we've already talked about OC, D coordinator. What about if Jim Harbaugh left? What about if Jim Harbaugh took a job in the NFL this season? What if he didn't do as well the next couple seasons and Michigan football had enough of them? Now, I'm not saying any of this is happening, but it is stupid not to consider, and if Michigan's athletic department doesn't have names in a secret drawer of who would replace Jim Harbaugh if he ever left Michigan, then they're stupid. But if he did take another job or was fired one day, who would Michigan consider for that head coaching job? I put together 8 names, and some of you guys on Twitter that like to take shots, like, ha ha, what a stupid list. But this is not a stupid list. This is a well-placed list. This is considering what Michigan would look for in a head coach of the program. Guy who has maybe NFL experience, maybe is coached at the highest level, college football playoff. That's what they look for. They got it with Rich Rodriguez. Didn't work out. They got it with Jim Harbaugh. Brady Hoke obviously didn't hit any of these qualifications. But here are the guys. I'm not saying any of these guys would be interested in the job. But if we're looking at it from the start, Sean Payton has been rumored to be Michigan's next head coach for nearly a decade now, right? He has said before in the past that he has considered himself a fan of Michigan, that maybe he wanted to take another job someday. He's been rumored to the Cowboys for probably a decade now himself. Would he move on? Let's say it was in 2 years from now, in 1 year from now, Drew Brees decides to retire. Sean Payton's around the same age as Jim Harbaugh. Would he take a job at college football as he gets into his mid to late 50s? I think it's a possibility. Michigan, for any of these guys, especially the top four, maybe not as much Matt Campbell, would have to come with a massive financial offer. Dabo Swinney, second best coach in the college football. Would he leave? Well, probably not, but Clemson doesn't have the kind of money that Michigan does, from head coaching to facilities to how much you can pay your coordinators, your assistants, whatever. Maybe he's accomplished all he wants to at Clemson. He didn't go to school there, so there's no mama called ties. I don't think Dabo Swinney would take the job necessarily. I think he'd take the phone call. If Michigan came 6 years, $80 million, I think he might take it. I don't know why he wouldn't. He's accomplished a lot at Clemson. So nevertheless, Dabo would be my number 2 candidate Michigan would contact. If Dabo said, no, I'm not interested, boom, Matt Campbell, Iowa State. A lot of roots in the state of Ohio, recruits the Midwest well, has proven that he can beat the big boys, got a win over Oklahoma. So I like what I've seen from Matt Campbell. Used to be at Toledo, 45 minutes south of Ann Arbor, so knows the area very well. A hot candidate for NFL jobs, but reportedly has been turning down offers, so he should be a candidate, a potential candidate, anytime Michigan's looking for a job in the future, should he stick at Iowa State. Lincoln Riley, in his early mid-30s, young coach, same thing as Dabo Swinney. It's not that he's looking for a new job, it's that if Jim Harbaugh wasn't there, went on or got fired, and Michigan wanted to compete with Alabama, compete with Clemson, compete with Oklahoma, it would all be about money. That's the only way they're going to get Lincoln Riley. Is Michigan a better job? Well, that's up to you guys. But if they offered him $15, $12 million a year, whether it's now or 4 years from now, he's going to take the call. So it's all about who is recruiting for that head coach, who's the AD at the time. Lincoln Riley would be young enough and certainly would fit the qualifications that Michigan would be looking for in a head coach. This next list is less sexier, less splashier candidates for the most part. My candidates 5 through 8. Josh McDaniels. Michigan just hired his brother Ben to be the wide receivers coach. Maybe if, hey, I like it here at Michigan, he should do some things. If McDaniel stays with the Patriots, doesn't take a head coaching job, maybe he would think his game plays better in college football. So he has the offensive mind. I think the ties to the area, growing up in the state of Ohio, his dad is a big-time high school football coach in Ohio, legendary high school football coach. Maybe it's Josh McDaniels. Matt LaFleur, two from the bottom, though, one that people don't know about as much, but former OC, co-OC with the Rams, now with the Titans, doing some really nice things from the state of Michigan. I think it's one that could be a candidate, whether 1 year, 2 years, or 10 years down the road. I've been told that the Michigan football coaching job is his dream job. You see above him Pat Fitzgerald. Don't need to go too deep into that one. He gets 9 and 10 win seasons, almost every year with 2-star athletes at Northwestern. And Chris Peterson. We saw him lose to Ohio State yesterday, but certainly was more competitive than Michigan has been definitely this year. So Chris Peterson, big-time coach at Boise State, has led Washington to the college football playoff, and now in 2018 had them in the Rose Bowl, less than a touchdown loss to Ohio State yesterday. So those are the names I would go after, 1 through 8. Make the call. You want the job? Yes, good. No, next guy. You'll probably end up with somebody like LaFleur. You'll probably end up with Fitzgerald or Peterson, but I would definitely go with that top 4 as hard as I could if it didn't work out with Jim Harbaugh or he decided to take his talents back to the NFL. Here's a question that got a lot of response on Twitter. I want you guys to respond here. If you're watching on Twitter, sorry for the repetition in questions, but it is an apt one to get people's opinions on. YouTube, Facebook, want to know from you guys. Describe one word. Type one word below to describe Jim Harbaugh's 4 years at Michigan and really compare it to your expectations. I was talking to my dad last night and I said, man, Urban Meyer is he's everything that Michigan fans thought they were getting with Jim Harbaugh, but he's even better than that. You never would have guessed that you'd basically go 12 or 13-1 every single year, be in a major bowl game, win the Big Ten like Urban Meyer has. So he has outperformed the wildest expectations. Jim Harbaugh, I think, underperformed quite a bit. So type one word below. We'll see what the people think about 4 years with Jim Harbaugh. My man Don Thomas has a comment here that's pretty interesting. So I put out yesterday, when Dwayne Haskins threw his 50th touchdown pass, I said Dwayne Haskins is now throwing for 50 touchdowns, which is twice the record of any Michigan quarterback has ever done. The Michigan single-season record of 25. John Navarre and Chad Henne, I believe, share it. Maybe Elvis Grbac and Chad Henne share it. Whatever it is, 25 is the record. Haskins, 50. And he says that's a false equivalency. For decades, both teams have been built on the run. Urban, as a special passer, modified his offense, plain and simple. Well, is it that simple? Because take a look at Ohio State's top passing leaders. It's not just Dwayne Haskins. J.T. Barrett with 10 touchdowns, higher than any quarterback has had in Michigan football history. And he also had another season with 34 touchdowns. Troy Smith with 30. Bobby Hoying back in the mid-90s with 29. If we go down the list from there, it's Terrell Pryor, who many people say was a running back or a wide receiver playing quarterback. He's got more than 25 plus touchdowns. So it's not just Dwayne Haskins. Don, I know you're my boy. I appreciate all of our conversations on Michigan football, but I think calling it a false equivalency is false in itself. But if you look at what Urban Meyer has done, basically every year he's been there, their quarterbacks have thrown for more touchdowns than anyone in Michigan football has in a single season. So I'm not sure if I believe that, if I buy that line of thinking when it comes to why Michigan's quarterbacks can only throw 25 touchdowns in a season. I think it's hold on to the bow wire a little too long. All right, have a question for you guys. I want to know this year, who will win the game? Michigan, Ohio State, 2019, year 5 for Jim Harbaugh, year 1 for Ryan Day at Ohio State. Who's going to win this one? Type M for Michigan. I guess, will Michigan win? Type O for no, it's going to be Ohio State. So it's going to be Michigan, type M. If they're not going to win, it's going to be Ohio State. Type O, who will win the game in 2019? And gosh, if it's not Michigan, I don't know what to tell you at this point. A home game against a first-year head coach at Ohio State who's not even 40 years old, that would be a tough one to swallow for Michigan in year 5 under Jim Harbaugh. All right, I am jumping on a plane. I'm headed out to the Bay Area. Your boy's going to be on the sidelines for the Alabama-Clemson national title game on Monday, but we're going to try and bring you a Michigan Football Report episode or two while we're out there. So stick with us, follow me on Twitter, and we will see you then. Go Blue. Hey there, Michigan football fans. Thanks so much for watching the Michigan Football Report. If you haven't done so yet, go ahead and subscribe to Chat Sports, college football, NFL, NBA. New videos every single day. The #1 sports network on YouTube. Ready for another Michigan football video? I got you hooked up right here.